Got it? Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right.
Because I'm so fresh with everything, it's my knowledge of it all is a little bit still premature.
Mm-hmm.
But so far in London, it's there's not a lot of roles, but and there's still a lot of improvements that needs to happen in terms of women, of Black women or Asian women getting more parts. I think for myself, what I decided when I was about, let's say, 17, getting into it, was I saw there was a problem, and I figured that I decided that I wasn't going to let it limit me. And I know that's not as easy. It's not easy to do it. It's easy to say that, it's easier said than done.
Hello, listeners. This is Warren Wade Anderson.
Tony Sherry.
Reggie Valentin.
Welcome to the 11th episode of Anthology, a podcast forum where we discuss the contributions of Caribbean immigrants and their descendants to the arts and culture of the United States. The voice of confidence and determination in the cold opening belongs to the charismatic actor Letitia Wright. Letitia was born on October 31st, 1993 in Georgetown, Guyana. At the age of 7, Miss Wright and her family moved to London. At the age of 13, she saw a path to an acting career after witnessing Keke Palmer's performance in the feature film Akeelah and the Bee. This propelled her to the Identity School of Acting, IDSA, at the age of 16. By the age of 19, she had a small role on the feature film My Brother the Devil. When the world eventually saw her towering talent in 2018's Black Panther, she was 25 years old. In the interest of balance, we'll be taking a look at her contribution to cinema through the aperture of 2 films. The first, Urban Hymns, made before Black Panther. The second, Mangrove, made after Black Panther. Before we join the discussion, already in progress, just wanted you to know that Tony is an educator that teaches at-risk or troubled youths.
I didn't really know about her specifically until Black Panther, to be quite honest. But then when, we got a chance to do a little homework on her and then we watched the movies, I think she's a brilliant actress. I think that she's a very transparent actress. I think that she, like a lot of people, their personality and their art are very different. I think what we see on screen is who she is. So I think that's pretty cool about her. I guess I was wondering how she would tie in with the rest of our subjects. Mm-hmm. But I think you hit it on the head. She definitely is a product of our subjects. She's just on the other side of that lineage of actors and actresses that come from a West Indian descent and they're being who she is. And I think now she has more of that flexibility to be specific with her roles. She's very outspoken, and we'll talk about that. She doesn't seem like she has any fear professionally.
Yeah. She feels she has options.
Yeah, which if this was 60 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
So Reginald.
Yeah.
You're up.
The first time I saw her in anything was in the Black Mirror episode.
Yeah.
Where she played a woman who is getting revenge.
Yep.
And I think the episode was it Black Museum, I think it was called, or something like that?
I think it was called Black Museum, yeah.
Right. And I thought she was so brilliant because the way she portrayed herself initially was someone who was meek and naive, and then when things turned towards the end of the episode, you see that she was very deliberate, very smart, and it wasn't it didn't feel fabricated or farcical or anything like, artificial. You really saw like a transformation from the beginning of the episode until the end of the episode, and it felt authentic. You mentioned transparent, and I think I use that example to really compare or to highlight that skill that she has in being transparent, being authentic, and drawing you into the screen as someone who is not just acting, but someone that seems to be depicting something real on screen. Like you're buying into the character that she's playing, almost as if you're not seeing a character, you're seeing a real person. And I think that translates into a lot of the movies that she plays.
Yeah.
And she's also witty, and the wittiness, you almost feel as if the role that she plays, as you said, like that could be really her.
Yep.
If you met her in the street, she would be like Shuri from the Black Panther series, because she's so witty and she's so like one step ahead of everybody.
Yep.
You feel as if she sells you on that. It's her facial expressions, the way she moves, like
Carries
she
herself
and
out.
some of these things I'm sure acting schools can't teach you, right? But it's something that
The charisma
that she has is
Authentic.
it's
innate.
authentic. It's rare. It's beautiful.
So let me sort of play another clip where I think not only she has the talent and a kind of innate means of expression, a kind of like I said, a charisma, but I think she also has a strategy behind to make a career. So
Just speaking off my own experience, because it's so hard to speak for everybody.
Yeah.
But for me, as a young Black woman growing up, I was kind of like a rebel. I kind of read the scripts that were super stereotypical and said no. Like, I'm not even going to audition, because one, it's really disrespectful and it's really repetitive. And two, I know Susie from down the road just went up for a really dope part. She may not look like me, but we're the same age group.
Yeah.
We have the same experiences.
Yeah.
It's not imperative for Susie to be a different color to me, but you can open it up and show and have different people be in the room, different people from different ethnicities be in the room. So what I kind of did with my agents back home, who I'm still with, Identity Agency Group, Femi Oggins.
Oh,
yeah. Like he did the same thing with John, same thing with, it's kind of like put them in the room. It's kind of like just put them in the room. We know it says such and such color or whatever, but let's put them in the room and see how that plays, how that feels. And I found myself going into the room, and different girls would be there, and I would be the different one. So there would be a lot of Caucasian actresses, and I would be the most likely pretty much
Just
one or two black person. Yeah. But I didn't let the limitation of someone not wanting to widen the idea of this being a Black girl like limit me. I didn't let that happen. I was just like, let me just have a go. And then when I would go in the room, and then I let just work hard and let the talent kind of speak for itself.
Yeah.
I think that thought, that approach is representative of today's actress. She has that freedom. She has that luxury to do those things. I mean, you even have someone like a Halle Berry, who we probably wouldn't have even known if she didn't take some early roles. Maybe, I don't know. That's just speculation. I'm not sure. And Halle Berry.
Well, actually, Halle Berry's talent started because a teacher told her that she could do it.
Right.
But,
what was her first? I don't want to know.
She started off as a beauty contestant, and her boyfriend was like entered her without telling her. So her
on screen though, wasn't she? What was her first role?
I don't know. What
It wasn't.
But the larger point you're trying to make is like, she was not empowered within herself. Halle Berry wasn't.
Right.
To start her career.
Correct.
So why don't we dovetail into urban hymns? So I'm going to start with Reginald. What did you think about it? What did you think about the film itself?
I thought the film was powerful in terms of what it was depicting, in terms of the subject matter, to talk about how kids who are underprivileged and kids who are in the foster care system how they're treated, and also how these children interact with society. And so our perspective as people who are quote unquote well-adjusted, we're not looking at people's backgrounds. We're not looking at people's situations oftentimes. And we just judge, and we tend to dismiss these people who have real issues of neglect, of emotional issues that they're dealing with, not having parents to really guide them. And we see that the character that really took Letitia Wright's character under her wing kind of saw beyond that, also because she was dealing with a hurt and an issue that kind of like brought them together.
Well, why don't we step back and just talk about what the film is about and who the main characters are?
Right.
Initially, when I saw it, I thought of it as like, oh my God, are we going to watch Dangerous Minds in London?
Right.
And
Yeah.
What's the matter with the white savior movies, Warren?
yes, no. So I thought that was, and it's basically Letitia Wright and
Shirley Henderson.
Shirley Henderson, who I thought was going to be the white savior, but she has an antagonist.
Isabella Laughlin.
Yes, it sounds like that's her name. Like
Leanne.
Yes.
Was
Yes.
her friend, homegirl.
Yes.
Yeah.
Essentially, it's a kind of three-hander. Isabella and Letitia are grown-up kids who are going to age out of the system real soon.
Yep.
Shirley Henderson plays this sort of do-gooder who comes in and wants to help kids from her upper middle class background.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that I got out of it was playing, hearkening back to what Letitia said in the clip earlier, as far as choosing roles that are a little different than a stereotype. Because I thought she would be the stereotypical black kid who was like, well, I'm just the stereotypical black kid who was like, I only know violence and I need to be tamed.
Yep.
But her character is a little more nuanced than that. So with that said, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Reginald. Where were you going?
No, I was saying that this movie was highlighting the importance of giving someone an opportunity and not really looking at or dismissing them based on what we see or based on what we perceive to be a handicap or whatever it is that causes us to have a prejudice towards people, towards someone. You'd be surprised what that person will do with the right opportunity. Of course, there are people who are damaged, for lack of a better word, because of mental illness or because they're not, they can't cope with certain situations. And so, it's hard for them to break away from certain bad things or whatnot. But even those people, given an opportunity, you'd be surprised, what they'll do with that. And I feel like this is a movie about redemption, right? It's a movie about redemption. It's a movie about uncovering what your passion is and having a sense of purpose. And once you have purpose, regardless of what cards you're dealt, you'll overcome. A lot of people who are in the system, right? People who come from horrible backgrounds or whatever, they don't have a sense of purpose, and so they continue to do things that people expect them to do. Like if you call a kid, "Oh, you're terrible, you're bad," and then they constantly get arrested, that's affirmation that you're bad, right? You're in jail and you go back into the system. You're given an opportunity to do good, but then you keep doing bad because people expect you to do bad. But if someone unlocks a sense of purpose in that person, sky's the limit.
Yeah, it's revolutionary.
Right.
Just to piggyback off what Reginald was saying, I work with a lot of individuals who go through the foster system, who had just not the greatest lot in life. This movie right here, for me, just based on the kind of kids I've dealt with in my past, it's a film about hope, right?
Did it ring true to you?
Very accurate.
Okay.
Very accurate. I've worked with kids, and I've told you the story where I thought I was gonna be the do-gooder, come and save a hood kid type of person when I first started. And a lot of these kids, especially when you get them 16, 17, 18 years old, right before they're going to age out and become independent, they're traumatized, they're battered, they're hopeless. They don't believe you when you say, there is a different way. They don't believe it because they've been so, it's also a matter of trust. So this movie, Letitia Wright's character was offered some hope. So now this hope was being challenged by her homegirl because her homegirl's like, why are you even trusting this lady? No. What is this?
I think it's really interesting too, because in the United States we would think, and this is why I thought of Dangerous Minds, we would think that it's a black girl that would be the trouble. But her friend is the mixed girl. And I think that in itself is like, I don't think there's enough narratives out there as to the inner conflict that happens, not only when you're in the foster system, but when you're mixed and you're abandoned by your black and white side.
Yeah, yeah. And I remember some of my kids, when I was in the Bronx, a lot of them said, oh, Mr. Sherry, you live in Pennsylvania. Because my life was so in a different world. They could not relate. So when you get to a place, it becomes a planet where you don't even believe that you could go to this other planet called normalcy, excuse me.
Right.
So the mixed girl, I think that she represents that, and it's very accurate. I know kids like her who just was so battered. They don't know anything else but negativity. They don't know anything else but the life that they have, and they're gonna challenge your hope. They're gonna challenge your opportunities.
Right. That is their only world and their only reference.
She can't make sense of a person that's trying to do right. She can't make sense of that. She's trying to think, okay, what's her ulterior motive?
Let me ask you something just a little beyond this.
Yeah.
Because what the film showed is that Leanne it's even a threat when someone is trying to do better with their lives.
Mm-hmm.
Where does that come from? And where does that come from? Why doesn't, like you said that the movie rang true, why does Letitia's character, why was she better able to accept the change than Leanne character?
Because Letitia Wright's character, there's also those kids too. There are also those kids who are very bright. You can tell that they're super smart. They're strong in math. They're strong in whatever, and they're torn. There's those kids that are either on one side of the pole or they're in the middle where they know that they're different. They know that, oh yeah, I came up through this system, but I know I'm smart. I know I have something here. So that's why she even believed that she can go to the choir and start singing. That's what, because she knew it. I mean, she knew she can sing. She knew she had a talent. She knew it. She identified herself as talented. She knew she was talented. There's a lot of kids like that.
So you're saying just that perception that she's like, I am smart. That was the doorway to get her.
She believed it. I think that's the difference between her and her friend. Her friend probably had a talent too. Her friend probably had something that she could
but she didn't
build on. Letitia Wright's character believed it, and then more importantly, somebody else believed her
and reinforced it.
Yeah.
Believing in something oftentimes doesn't get you as far as when you have someone that believes in you. So when you combine these two realities, then you can step into your destiny or your purpose. And I think that Jamie, Letitia Wright's character, I think she might have believed to a certain extent in her ability, but I don't think she thought that
it's possible
the world would have received that talent, especially if you live in a foster system where I remember the movie where the people who are supervising you are
foster parents.
Right. They can't touch you.
Right. They couldn't
can't show you any type of
affection.
affection.
Yeah.
And they really can't even give you any type of positive reinforcement. They don't even believe that you can do the things that you are showing promise and being able to do. So you're living in an environment where everything points to, you can't do that. It's so weird for her to see someone believe in her, and she dismissed that
in the beginning.
In the beginning, and then Kate, that's her.
Yes,
yeah.
Kate
was
Shirley
persistent.
Yeah,
got her attention, and that belief that Kate put in Jamie's character gave her the
her own belief system.
I think push that she needed to kind of like step into this.
I think Kate needed Jamie as well because of her outside dynamics. Because I mean, you look at how she was treated by her peers, even with the job. Her husband wasn't crazy about her working there. her contemporaries. I remember that dinner scene where they kind of mocked her a little bit for
sort of walking away from a high position.
Yeah.
To sort of what they saw as sort of stooping low.
Yeah, and the dynamics. I mean, it was spot on. I'm living it right now. I see it. You know, a lot of the people that I work with are underpaid, overworked, they're stressed out, and we saw that in that facility.
Yeah,
that's that. I mean, they're not that job wasn't easy. I mean, I remember one of the opening scenes, the kid was getting beat up, and then the woman got hit and whatever. I've seen that. I see that stuff all the time. I see that stuff all. I have stories, but that's what's also happening. So you have disenfranchised children without families going through a system that doesn't really love them, can't even show them anything, and then now you pair them with personnel and staff that are burnt out, that traumatize themselves. Yeah. And that's happening today. I'm telling you, that's happening today. I see it in the group homes. You have people getting paid in Long Island. You got people getting paid under minimum wage. They're overworked and they're dealing with other traumatized folks. It's that system has to change. I'm telling you. I mean, I know we're not talking about that, but that system has to change. It's not a great system for these kids.
So Reginald pointed out that the Jamie character, or both of you pointed out that the Jamie character is smart. Does it also, is it that she's smart? Because here's what I was reading her character is. Her character is not as hardcore as her friend, but feels a sense of loyalty because that friend is hardcore and is there to defend her, and it's sort of like that's the only friend that she really knows. So she'll, even if she sees that the situation might not be right, she's going to go in and defend that hardcore girl anyway. Do you see that in
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And before Kate came into the formula, that relationship worked. They got along great because she was giving what Letitia Wright's character gave her friend what she needed. She needed companionship. She needed a friend. And I think Letitia Wright's character just needed guardianship, protection. That's what that was. She was just the muscle. She was that crazy chick that did all the crazy stuff.
Right.
It was crazy.
But see, what's interesting to me is I'm realizing now, I mentioned the word purpose earlier, and I think that Jamie's character found her purpose through the help of Kate's character that kind of affirmed something inside of her that made her hone in her talent, something that she thought she had but wasn't sure if the world was willing to receive, right?
Yeah.
But Leanne's character, she had a purpose too. It was kind of warped sense of purpose, which is to
But her purpose was just basically to survive.
Her instinct was to survive, but her purpose was to like defend or protect Jamie's character. I feel like
And Jamie was sort of finding her own way. Didn't really need that defending anymore.
Right.
She grew up.
She grew up,
Or-
and then
or
not having that later frustrated her. And when you don't have a sense of purpose, you'll do
Frustrated Leanne.
Frustrated Leanne, and when you lose that sense of purpose,
You lash out.
You lash out. Even when in the jail scene where her actions,
And you talk about the jail scene because Letitia gets goes to jail as a result of
Leanne's actions.
Yeah, Leanne's actions. Yeah,
Right.
and Leanne's already there.
Leanne's already there.
But Leanne protected her in that jail.
Right.
Yes. She protected her.
Because again, that's her purpose. She feels that the loyalty aspect is her purpose, right? She's loyal to Jamie's character because that is her purpose. And even at the expense of her, at the risk of her prolonging her sentence, she did something completely outrageous to protect Jamie because Jamie had a future, right?
Yeah.
Even being put in jail because of Leanne's character, she recognized that, wow, you do have a future. I'm going to try to protect that future.
No. I think the larger point you guys are making is that protector and protectee is like, it's a kid stuff. That's what the kids do.
Right.
But when you start to grow up, you can't do that anymore. When you come out into the larger world,
Yeah.
were you going to protect yourself against the guy who doesn't hire you? You're going to protect
Right,
yourself
right, right, right.
against the guy who wants the company that needs to collect your water bill and your light bill. It's a kind of it's as if Leanne was still a child.
Right. But what also worked for both of them is that they both showed each other where they were. So Leanne was starting to see like, holy crap, my peer is now elevating and I'm still not elevating. And then that same scene where Jamie's character was starting to, get her life together. She had the apartment, and then she went out and she came back, and then her friend had all that stuff happening.
All those drug deals.
So that even showed Jamie like, oh snap, I don't want this. I don't want this life. So they both helped each other identify where they were.
And I think that Leanne was protecting Jamie, knowing that Jamie has a talent that needs to be protected.
Right.
You think so?
No. I think.
Hold on. I think that she thought that she could ride on Jamie's coattails and they could both, while Jamie's being elevated, she could like ride along with that.
I don't think so. I think it's like a child's mind, which is like I've always defended my friend. I'm going to defend my friend.
Right.
But she wasn't thinking about the future of it. You agree with me, Tony?
I don't know. I don't know if she ever even cared about her talent.
Exactly.
I don't think so. I mean, but you're saying different though.
What? No. What I'm saying is like she was just like, this is what I've always done for Jamie, and I'm going to continue to do it, even though we're not in
She was conscious of Jamie's talent, because the reason why she protected her in jail was because this bully that was attacking Jamie was trying to take away that talent.
Right.
Yeah, the guitar.
Right. So that's symbolic. Like she saw that.
Okay. That's
she
fair.
did see
That's
the
fair.
future to a certain extent. It could have been warped. It could have been like
That's what it was. That's what it
right?
was.
Warped,
That's what
it
it
could
was.
perverted, and
Right.
she wanted her to elevate herself, but she didn't want.
She wanted her way.
She wanted
She was doing her way.
as she was elevated
They elevate together.
to elevate together and not to discard her. So she thought that, wow, you're not rocking with me anymore. Like when they both left the jail. Well,
One left. Before
right.
Before the other.
When they were both now they're both free. She's thinking it's business as usual. Yeah, you're elevated and yeah, you're doing better, but
I'm just gonna move in with you.
Yeah, I'm gonna move in with you. I'm gonna protect you, and wherever you are, however how you climb in this ladder of success, I'm gonna be there with you to be that knucklehead that you need me to be.
Yeah.
But then when Jamie categorically said, "I don't want this life," so she started to lash out and start to blame the very person that helped Jamie come out of that troubled situation.
It's funny now that we're talking about it, I'm realizing that there was more layers to this film than I thought it was.
Yep.
Yeah.
Me too. I'm realizing that. I think that Leanne's character was more layered than the surface than what you see.
Yeah.
Because we've all had friends like that where you just go, I don't want to do that anymore. Whether people you grew up with, you're like.
Sometimes it's good to have a goon in your camp, though.
And there's something I just realized too. This movie there's a
No,
dichotomy.
but after a while, like after you get to a certain age, you don't need a goon anymore.
But I think this movie, and I'm realizing this now, and I'm hoping I'm going to articulate this properly. But there's a dichotomy there between those that can be rehabilitated and those that cannot be rehabilitated,
or just need more work.
Or
do you think that Leanne character could have been rehabilitated?
Absolutely, she just. And I've seen this for myself, and I hate to keep on going back to me, but I've realized that there was a certain type of kid. I couldn't get to every kid because a lot of the kids did not see me, couldn't relate to me.
You were not on your wavelength.
Right.
No, see, because I thought I was going to be. Yeah,
What I mean by that is the Kate character. They were like it was like a kindred spirit. She could see herself in the Jamie character.
Correct. So
in a way that you're able to reach the kids that you could see yourself in,
that's
whether
what it was.
consciously or unconsciously.
That's what it was. So there were some kids that were kind of like, for me, like we know, like I'm not your stereotypical African American person, right? I was born in this country, raised by Haitian parents,
but you're essentially a middle class African American
who grew up in pretty much a low-level suburbia environment.
You grew up in suburbia. You're on the outskirts of New York City, but you're still suburbia.
So I thought just being a black dude who knew about their life was enough. So no, I wasn't able to
You
reach
didn't
every
realize
kid.
the class
Absolutely
difference.
not. Even the way sometimes I would sit in my chair and have my legs crossed or in a certain way, and like, Mrs. Sherry, you sit funny. Why are you sitting like that?
Right. Right.
So, but there were other people who were from the Bronx, who were from Harlem, that were from certain other neighborhoods, who got out of that, went to school, got educated, and now they're teachers. They were able to reach a kid that I couldn't reach.
Right.
So I think that Leanne,
Right.
Leanne's character needed someone that she could relate to help her.
Because Kate's character, although she was well intentioned, and she would have actually elevated Leanne's character too, but they weren't vibing. They weren't
right. There was so
right.
much of a gap.
Right. But I think it begs the question: how could Leanne have been rehabilitated?
That's a great question.
Would it be a different type of person that could have spoken to Leanne and made her realize that, yo, I need to do better, like Jamie's character is doing?
Leon would have to see that person and be like, that's the future. I see that person, and that person could have been a younger me, and vice versa for that person.
Right. But the thing is, the rehabilitation aspect of her character, or the questioning of whether or not she could be rehabilitated, I think stems from the idea that the movie didn't portray that there was any real purpose that she thought she had.
Right. You didn't see any hidden gems.
At least with Jamie's character, it was singing, and somebody else saw that because she was a singer as well. She was part of a chorus or a choir, so they clicked. But if someone were to mentor,
you're right. If there's someone that come to the
Leanne's character, what could they have connected with Leanne to show her? Listen, you have a sense of purpose.
If someone came in there and was like a boxing coach, they could have directed that energy,
that rage that she has into. Yeah, right.
She knew how to fight.
Yeah,
right. Perhaps that could have been
directed that into that sport, and then from that sport, it could have grown into something else. In the same way that Jamie's character is going to eventually go to music school, but she might not become a musician. She might become a composer. She might become a teacher. Like it's. I think Tony was sort of illustrated it for me, which is basically you just need to get them to the doorway for them to see the other side.
Yeah.
Because once they see the other side, they're like, wait a minute, I don't want to go back to the darkness.
But the trust issue, you can either save a kid or you miss a kid on the first interaction with them. That's it. You have that one day where they're going to either see you as credible or see you as a clown. And that's it. That's it. And these kids have too many
disappointments,
trust issues, man, with adults. They don't trust adults. They trust each other, but they don't trust adults. So
because adults have let them down their whole lives.
Yep.
And I think that's depicted in this movie too.
Oh yeah. So but to defend the adults in these schools, in these group homes, in these foster care places, so where I work now, a lot of the direct care people who are directly working with these kids work 3 jobs because they're not getting paid enough. So they're coming from overnights, they're tired.
Right.
And now they got to deal with aggressive, obnoxious, yelling, cursing.
It's hurt.
Yeah.
It's hurt.
Hurt is the root.
The underlying kind of root. Yeah.
So for someone like Isabella, yes, there's always hope for a kid. She was a kid. At the end of the day, she was a child. What? How old were they? They were teenagers, right?
Like 16, 17.
Still.
Yeah.
17 is tough because that's a lot of years of whatever. But if she had the right person to direct her, like what you said, if she, and that's just going back to my point, if she found someone that she can trust, like day one, she needed that person that didn't take that mess, that can challenge her and that can facilitate all that stuff.
Right.
This episode is brought to you by our sponsor, Double Bill Movies, a book club for movies. Watch 2 movies and join us to talk about it. A forum for avid and casual movie watchers to discuss how this medium shapes the way we see the world around us. Go to doublebillmovies.com for more details. Now, let's get back to the show.
Before we move on to 2020's Mangrove, we wanted to pay homage to one of the main sources of the film, Franco Russo's short documentary, The Mangrove 9, produced by the subject of episode 5 of this podcast, Horace Sauvé. I started with a synopsis. The prosecution in London of these 9 individuals that were trying to establish not only a restaurant, but a community in the Notting Hill part of London. Their prosecution became so public that of the 9 individuals, I think at least 2 of them were highly educated. And the rest of them, one of them, Frank Critchlow, was a shop owner. And they sort of set a precedent for Black people, Caribbean people, to defend themselves within the judicial system.
Yep.
I thought that was a sort of a great kind of documentary that eventually Steve McQueen, not the Steve McQueen of Bullets and The Getaway, but Steve McQueen of 12 Years a Slave, the film director, and Hunger, put together a series called Small Acts, and the sort of 5 episodes. And the first episode, Mangrove, was the source of that. One of the sources was a Mangrove 9. With that said, let's talk about Mangrove.
I thought the movie was dope. I thought it was shot well. Like, I thought it was, for lack of a better term, how do you describe set design? How do you describe when they were able to capture the time and the place so authentically?
It's set design. It's set design and costume design too.
And not even just that, right? So it looked great, but there were scenes where like they even got like the auntie, like the heavyset woman, the way they were moving and dancing, the way they had their scarf. I don't want to veer off too much, right? But there was a blurb I saw the other day that asked Denzel Washington about race and movies and why can't certain races do certain movies. So he was like, why couldn't, I'm taking this out of context, but why couldn't Steven Spielberg do a movie like Boys in the Hood? Because Steven Spielberg's this highly acclaimed guy, he can do it or whatever. But Denzel was like, it's not that he couldn't do it. He probably could do his research or whatever, but Steven Spielberg wasn't in the house when mom was cooking. He wasn't in the house when dad came home tired. He didn't experience that. So you can't capture that. You can't learn that. You can't research that. So I was so impressed by that by that episode because they got so many small esoteric, if that's the word, like little nuances and little winks that related to so many people and to capture the West Indians in the 70s in the UK so authentically. I was impressed by that. But Letitia Wright's
even and it's not really sort of mentioned or sort of called out, even the fact that Frank Critchlow used to run like a kind of gambling thing.
Yeah.
And you can tell as an immigrant, you're watching, you're like, that's how he had to start to sort of make a little money to sort of get by to make himself legitimate.
Yeah.
And you're right. Someone who's not an immigrant I don't think would totally understand that unless they spend time to really sort of do the research.
Yeah. It was that part was done, I mean, flawlessly. Like I just felt like, wow, this is how I didn't think of any inaccuracy. I thought that was all accurate. So with that being said, with Letitia Wright's character, even though we've been talking about how transparent she is, and you guys might disagree with me, and how well she's able to kind of put her personality into a character, I think that she needed to adjust a little bit here, where she had to act. She was acting more. Like if we were looking at the 2 movies, she acted more in this movie because she was being somebody different. I think in Urban Hymn, it was closer to what she knew compared to Altheia Jones.
It's not that she was not acting or acting. It's just like she adjusted herself to the character.
What I saw was, I thought that she depicted something that I felt was needed for that character, and that was frustration and anger.
But also strategy.
Strategy, right. But I'm saying in terms of an emotional expression of that character. It was the two things that I saw was there was some wit. She was very witty, which is typical of Letitia Wright. I think that there's wit in a lot of the roles that she plays. Charisma, but I also saw controlled anger. It wasn't like wild anger where she was gonna smash things or whatnot, but she
had the anger of an educated woman. Highly educated woman.
At first towards the system, and then later on in the movie was towards her own, not her own people, but one person in particular who she thought was giving up on the cause.
Yes.
And which is such a truism in the life of revolutionary, life of
I think
of
that
a person who is fighting for some sort of
Right.
justice. You're gonna have infighting, and you're gonna have fighting without, right? External fighting.
Because that dynamic there was a lot of like the hood dudes are mad at the educated cats because they're calm. And they're not showing they're angry, but they're not showing it because they understand the system.
Mm-hmm.
Like I forget the
But
guys.
it's not inside the system. They know like that's misdirected energy.
No, right, but to what Reginald was saying, the gentleman that was, I'm talking about the trial, and he was kind of like disrespecting the judge. And they're like, listen, we feel the same way, but we're not going to get anywhere if we don't
have a strategy.
We have to play the game a little bit.
Yes. Even though Letitia is younger, she has a similar kind of idea of strategy in the way that she auditioned, the way she thought about auditioning and getting into the industry, in the same way that Altheia Jones had towards that trial, which is, I have to play the game. In the case of Letitia, I have to play the game. I have to go to the auditions, and I have to show up places where they don't expect me to show up.
Yeah.
Altheia Jones and Dargis
Yeah.
had to sort of argue their point of view and do it in an unorthodox way so that they can be not only recognized but unpredictable, so they can get their point across effectively.
It's amazing, the parallels. I didn't realize this until the series of movies we've been watching over the last couple of years. The parallels of the civil rights movement in the UK and in the US. There's a lot of parallels.
Well, yeah, because we're in this unfortunately in the same boat in that we are not seen as equals.
Right.
We're in societies we're not seen as equals, and we have to come up with ways to be recognized as equals.
Yeah, and once again, you would think that these people are in their 30s and 40s. Altheia Jones was 21 years old.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that? That person was 20 or 21 years old in the court representing himself like that.
When you have to do something, you have to do it, right?
Right.
We are blessed that we didn't have to do anything like that.
Right.
But if you're sort of if you're pushed, you have to stand up or just be pushed down.
There's something to be said about the passion that young people have that I feel wouldn't be effective if you're in your 30s or 40s. At that point, you're just crystallized and you're settled in.
Right.
To your.
You're like, how can I compromise so I can?
You're busy negotiating too much. A 20-something, a 19-year-old, a 15-year-old, they're not negotiating nothing with you, man. They're
more emotional.
If they are passionate about something and they believe that what they're passionate about is the end all be all, they'll go for broke.
No, it's true. It's true.
And I feel like usually young people are usually at the helm of like revolutionary.
They're always at the helm of it.
At the helm of it.
Yeah.
And the smart ones usually get counsel from wise people, and then those people are just like,
they make the transition.
Yeah, right.
That's a good point.
But you're always going to find a 20-something-year-old aggressively pursuing things like justice or just revolutionary things in general.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, let's clarify a few things before we wrap up. I would love to say that we employed an empirical process to choose the list of subjects for this season, but we didn't. We, Tony, Reginald, Mark, and I, started with the figures we knew from our youth. Cicely Tyson, Episode 1, Sidney Poitier, Episode 2 and 3, and Hera Belafonte, Episode 4. Then use them as a catalyst to find the filmmakers that were influenced by them and those whom eventually evolved into other approaches of filmmaking. If one were to listen to all 11 episodes, parts and chapter introductions in order, they will begin to hear running themes and insights that illustrates the continuity of Caribbean excellence to the relatively new medium of film. If you dig just a little deeper, you'll also realize that two of our subjects are technically not from the Caribbean. Sidney Poitier is from the Bahamas, which is in the Atlantic Ocean, and Letitia Wright is from Guyana, which borders the Amazon and the Atlantic Ocean. While on its face they appear to be separate, the Bahamas and Guyana are steeped in Caribbean culture and traditions. This episode was produced and moderated by Tony Sherry, Reginald Valentine, Mark Barozzi, and Warren Wade Anderson. The audio clips of Miss Wright were taken from the February 6, 2018 episode of the Deadline podcast. All the episodes were edited by Warren Wade Anderson. The music for the episodes were composed by Edzer, Junior Angerville, and Marcus Pinn. Thank you for spending this season with Antilles.